This is Module 1, Lesson 7 homework, and I will go through number 1A, B, and C to show you how vertical number lines work. So for number 1, we're working with 4 and 3/10, but we want to round 4 and 3/10 to the nearest hundredth. So we would find our rock bottom, which would be 4 and 30 hundredths, which would be the same thing as 4 and 3/10. And then we would look up here and say, well, what's the next hundredth up? Is 4 and 31 hundredths. And then we would have to decide what's the midpoint between 4 and 30 hundredths and 4 and 31 hundredths. Well, that would be 4 and 305, not 315, 305 thousandths. And then we can look at our actual number, which is 4 and 3/10, which is down here, and we would round down or stay where we are in this case for 4 and 30 hundredths. For the next one, we need to round to 4 and 3/10. So our rock bottom would still be 4 and 3/10. The next tenth up from 4 and 3/10 would be 4 and 4/10. And then we would need to decide what our midpoint is between 4 and 3/10 and 4 and 4/10. So I know that I need 4 and 35 hundredths to be my midpoint, because I need, if I took 4 and 3/10 and added 5 hundredths, that would get me halfway to another tenth. And then I would see that my number's already here, and I would still round down. And then we'll look at ones where it changes up a little bit, and we would start with 4, because the smallest one we can get out of here is 4. The next one up would be 5. Halfway between 4 and 5 would be 4 and 5/10. Then we look here and we say, well, where does my 4 and 3/10 fall? I could divide this up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I would say it's at, 4 and 1/10, 4 and 2/10, 4 and 3/10. So that falls below my midpoint, so when I round to the nearest one, I would round to 4 ones. For this box right here, it would just be to help decide how many ones and how many tenths are in 4 and 3/10. So we could have 4 and 3/10. And then we could decide, well, how many tenths are in 4 and 3/10? Well, there's 43 tenths. And then we could say, well, how many hundredths are there in 4 and 3/10? Well, I know that there's 100 hundredths in each one, and I have 4 of those. So there would be 400 tenths in my 4 holes, and then not tenths, 400 hundredths in my 4 holes, and then 30 more hundredths in my 3/10. So I could say that there's 430. We're not really paying attention to this as much. This vertical number line is more of what I want to get across. You would do the same thing for the next one, rounding to hundredths, ones, and tens, and just deciding where on the number line it would fall. I'll do 2A. So if I have 225 and 28 hundredths, my next hundredth up would be 225 and 29 hundredths. Midway between 225 and 28 hundredths and 225 and 29 hundredths, I would need 5 thousandths to get me halfway to this next hundredth. So I could say that my midpoint would be 225 and 285 thousandths. And then I would look at this number, 225 and 86 thousandths, and I would say, well, that's right here, because I know that I need this would be 285, so it would be 286, 287, 288, 289, and then I would have my 29 hundredths. So it would be right here, 225 and 286 thousandths, which leaves me above my midpoint, so I would round to 225 and 29 hundredths. We are just taking a look at this next number right here and seeing whether or not it's more than 5, but we also need to understand that we need 5 thousandths to get us to the next hundredth here. So I can't make one more hundredth to get to 29 hundredths here unless I use my thousandth pieces to get to my 29. And I have 6 thousandths in this number, which puts me above my midpoint, making this the rounded number. If we look at the back, for the word problems, let's see, let's look at number 5. Jules reads that 1 pint is equivalent to 473 liters. He asks his teacher how many liters there are in a pint. His teacher responds that there are about 4,700 liters in a pint. He asks his parents, and he says that there are 5/10 liters in a pint. Jules says that they are both correct. How can that be true? Explain your answer. Well, what we can see here, and what we want the kids to be able to explain on a test, is that 473 thousandths can be rounded either to 4,700ths or 5/10, depending on if you are using tenths or hundredths. On your number line. So I could say that if I'm doing tenths, I would have 4/10 down here, 5/10 up here. To get halfway from 4/10 to 5/10, I would need 4,500ths. I have 4,700ths, which rounds up to 5/10. On this bottom one, if I'm doing 4,700ths, I know I have 4,700ths. My next one is 4,800ths. Halfway between 4,700ths and 4,800ths is 475 thousandths. I have 473 thousandths, which means I would round down to 4,700ths.